requests to speak? Is there anyone else wishing that hasn't spoken to address the board on this issue before I close the hearing? In that case, I'll close the hearing. Supervisor Buster.
Can someone enlighten me about the particular physical circumstances at that entrance? If someone's walking down Gilman Springs Road on that side of the Gilman Springs Road, can they continue across that entrance, both approaching it and crossing the driveway, obviously on the pavement? But then, can they get up? Is there some kind of a path, a dirt path at least, where they can walk by, and they don't have to get out in the street? They don't have to get out on the pavement. I mean, like an ordinary sidewalk. Or do they have to go out in the street, even on the verges of that entranceway there, in order not to trample on the flowers or not to have the sprinklers get on their clothing? What happens there? I mean, from just a pedestrian, not anybody's going to protest, just somebody walking down Gilman Springs Road. What happens when they get to that entrance? Do they have to go out into the street and possibly watch out for cars that may be turning in there and creating a hazardous situation? Or are they going to have to trample on the flowers? Or do they have an actual path or walkway that they can stay off the street until they have to cross that driveway? Can someone answer that for me? Yeah. Sure.
Walk down that roadway, there is the curb and the side. Up to the mic.
Why don't you come with the mic?
There's a microphone up there.
The curb ends and the Scientology vegetation and their sprinklers and their motion detectors and sensors start. There is no pathway that you can walk down beside the roadway. You've either got to walk...
So you have to get out onto the roadway then at that point.
You either walk on the actual curb itself or in the gutter.
Or in the gutter.
And that is public land beside the roadway, but they've encroached upon it, as I said. And if they turn on the sprinklers... I don't want a long explanation. I think I understand. So a pedestrian that happened to be coming along at the time this protest, when the sprinklers were on, would either have to get wet and possibly trample on some flowers, or they would have to actually get off the side of the road and come out into the roadway before they cross this driveway. Is that correct? Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
All right.
Okay, I think we've answered your question. Thank you.
All right. Well, let me just suggest in this particular case out here that that's part of the problem here, that there's no place for there's no sidewalk, even an undeveloped dirt path, and it forces anyone to go out into the roadway before they even cross, which could be a dangerous circumstance for anyone walking. I mean, normally you get to a driveway, you are going to look around to see if there's any traffic coming. But if you have to get out on the road, I mean, I know there's a lot of roads like this in the county. I mean, I have Washington Street near my house, for example, that in certain areas there's a lot of vegetation and fences and whatnot, and encroach into the right-of-way probably, and force any pedestrians, particularly those walking side by side, to really get out too close to cars, and there's overhanging branches and the like. So you have a similar circumstance here, where the protesters are, when they're there, they're put between a rock and a hard place. They're either out there, they don't want to get wet, they're in a dangerous situation, or they're blocking traffic going in and out of the driveway. So they're kind of in a no-win situation. I understand why Scientology doesn't want to have protesters embellishing its front entranceway for everybody to look at. I mean, I understand that. At the same time, though, I think you have to provide for safety there, and I think that's partially responsibility of Scientology and the county if they're encroaching on that area, so that a pedestrian and protester can't get off the street. So I think that's one of the contributing here to the confusion and the lack of consistency and the difficulty for law enforcement agencies to make what are often, difficult calls out there. And they're primarily, and I thought that officer was trying to create a safer situation for everybody involved. But here you have this ordinance, and it's gone through a lot of changes, which has also caused a lot of confusion as well. And really, a good ordinance should come out of clear circumstances, consistent circumstances, and in this case, have a compelling interest behind its passage. And that's where I think we fall short here, because the ordinance itself, and I appreciate the comparison that was put up here, that's helpful, but that's not all of what this ordinance says. The ordinance defines targeted picketing as picketing that is targeted at a particular residential dwelling and proceeds on a definite course or route in front of or around that particular residential dwelling. If both these things have to occur, one could argue that this ordinance has no bearing at all on protesters that are in front of the entranceway. They're not, as I understand it, they're not in what we would normally think of is in front of a particular residential dwelling. There's different levels at which you can misunderstand this ordinance, or when you're trying to apply it, you can foul up too. When you say particular, are they singling out one residential dwelling out of, I don't know how many there are out there, 4 or 5 dormitories? Because that's what this says. You have to single out one, a particular one, not just a whole host or group of them too. You have to be in front of them. And what does in front mean? There's no definition of that. But usually you look at the building and the way it's facing, the entranceway where you walk in, and you go in front. Well, I don't know how far off to the sides is in front of. Maybe we better get that defined too. So you look at this ordinance, it doesn't seem to apply to the only case that's been brought before us that says we need some ordinance to correct a real serious problem here. If it does apply, then I would think it's too difficult to enforce, and it's too difficult for people or protesters or the people who own the property or the people living in the dwellings on the property out of Scientology even understand what it means. There's several levels at which you can argue about what this actually allows, just this own ordinance out on that particular property out there. Now again, usually I like to see some particular problems, serious problems, pull up in different parts of the county, and the sheriffs and all our staff say, well, our current ordinance can't really cover that. We really need something more here. We don't have that in this case. And I don't care what San Diego does. I don't care what Orange County does. I don't care what the other counties do, because often they make mistakes. And we make mistakes. And we're going to make mistakes if we blindly just try to copycat some other ordinance without a clear and compelling case here. So I can't support this ordinance. I hope you can clarify if it does go into effect, because it seems to me it's going to be really a problem for everybody to try to interpret. And eventually you're going to spend a lot of money in court. People are going to try to get down to what this actually means. And there's going to be a lot of needless strife. It's going to create possibly more strife than it solves.
Thank you, Supervisor Buster.